I learned about you in a networking group, and I think if there is a true believer of the American dream, I think it's Chris Markarian.
I guess you can say I've always been in these places where not only I had to survive, but witnessed people surviving. Coming to Chicago in '98, working at a bank, was enjoying a great life, living the dream, truly. And when 9/11 happened, I quit my banking job and decided to join the U.S. Navy.
Yeah, you could find an employee that's got all the qualifications, but if it's not a cultural fit, it's tougher.
There are always exceptions to the rule. Unfortunately, in the last 10, 20 years, with the advent of social media, with the attention span, I think this generation is more prone to comfort than hardship. One of the things that we've done, John, is
Welcome to Doing Business in the Inland Empire, where opportunity meets action in one of Southern California's fastest growing regions. I am John Heaton with Heaton and Associates Insurance Services, and in every episode, we dive into strategies, stories, and real-world lessons from entrepreneurs, innovators, and the community leaders driving the Inland Empire forward. Today, my guest is Chris Markarian from Markarian Law Group. Chris, welcome. Welcome to the show.
thank you so much. Thanks, John. Thanks for having me.
Chris, and just a little bit about Chris. Chris has got a personal injury firm located in Yucaipa, but he covers the entire state. And the reason I know that is because I referred him a client that was in Bakersfield and closed the case, and everybody was happy. So, Chris, to start off, tell me a little bit about you. Tell me about your journey. It's fascinating. I learned about you in a networking group, a BNI networking group, Go BNI. We've been on Wednesday mornings, and hearing your story about how you came from where you were born to where you are today is fascinating. And I think if there is a true believer of the American dream, I think it's Chris Markarian. So if you want to...
Amen. I appreciate that. Thank you, John. Thank you for the opportunity. So I was born in, and I always start with saying, in this peaceful neighborhood called Baghdad in Iraq. And after I lost my dad, my mom, my sister, and I moved to this other peaceful neighborhood called Beirut, Lebanon. And then finally we landed in 1998 in October in this very peaceful neighborhood today that's in the news called Chicago, Illinois. So I guess you can say I've always been in these places where not only I had to survive, but witnessed people surviving. And there is nothing that can stop you from achieving your goal unless you just don't wake up that day. So as long as you're alive, it's an amazing day. God gave you another day to do whatever you wanted to accomplish, whether dreams and goals and all of these things that you could do. And we come from a culture of collectivism. So I always talk about, in America, we teach the culture of individualism. You know, I have 5 kids. I'm blessed with many kids like you are. And we teach our kids in America, you do what you want to do. You stand out. You don't have to follow everybody else. Where I was growing up, I was told, why are you different? Just do what everybody else is doing. So bringing both of those cultures and ideologies from 2 different parts of the world, coming to Chicago in '98, working at a bank, was enjoying a great life, living the dream, truly. And then 9/11 happens. And 9/11 changed my life like everybody else's life, probably not only in America, but in the world, and the way that we see good versus evil. And what do we do? And if you are given those instinctual options of life of run, fight, or hide, what kind of person are you? And I have come to realize I have to learn how to hide and how to run, because all I've known in my life is how to fight. And when 9/11 happened, I quit my banking job and decided to join the U.S. Navy. And I went to the recruiter and I said, I wanted to be a Navy SEAL. I want to go kill these evil people. He said, son, you have a green card and you wear glasses. You know, you need to have a citizenship and perfect vision to be a Navy SEAL. He said, why don't you join the Navy, do something you like and enjoy, and meanwhile, the Navy will correct your eyes and expedite your citizenship. I said, well, I'm Armenian. We're either jewelers or car mechanics. What do you got in the Navy? So I joined in the Navy as an electrical engineer on gas turbine engines. And after a year of engineering school after boot camp, we invaded Iraq in 2003. And now they're looking for people that not only speak the Arabic language with the Iraqi dialect, but know the culture. And I was blessed to be one of very few, handful of people in all military branches that was from Iraq and grew up in Iraq and knew the culture and the language and was able to get an interim security clearance. So I switched my job from engineering to cryptology halfway through my career in the Navy. I was a code breaker. And then while I was in the Navy, I went to Defense Language Institute up in Monterey to learn another critical language. And while I was there, I fell in love with the way that the Army conducts its operations. And I switched through a program called Blue to Green. So I got out of the Navy and joined the Army as an Army interrogator. And I was stationed out of March Air Force Base here, actually, in Moreno
wow.
Valley. While there, I fell in love with the way that truly in America is one of the only places, I believe, on earth where we believe our rights are God-given, not country-given. And when we were handling these detainees, unlawful detainees, ununiformed people that are just, militia and guerrilla and terrorist organization members, we were giving them rights. And I was getting so angry. I'm like, why are we giving these evil people rights? And, well, the U.S. military and the United States Constitution affords people rights that we believe are God-given. And it was a tremendously eye-opening experience for me, which caused me to want to go to law school and be a JAG officer. A Few Good Men is one of my favorite movies.
Yeah.
Joined the law school, got into law school, and master's degree in counterterrorism studies with the intention of going back as a JAG officer, which I got accepted as a JAG officer, but then I start working for a personal injury firm in East LA. And the rest is history. I became partner there, and then I bought the partner out in 2018. I've been on my own, and now I practice and live and work out of Yucaipa, California, which I believe is one of the best cities to live in and raise your family in.
Well, if you drive up and down the 10 freeway, the one thing you always notice as you're coming through Yucaipa is this massive American flag. There's Markarian Law Group. You see a sign, and then there's this massive American flag. And what I love every time, you give me chills when I hear you talk about your story, is I love your passion for the United States and for America and the American dream. And I don't know if there's a bigger supporter of what America stands for than Chris. Where does that come from?
It comes from seeing the lifestyle and the dictatorship and the chaos in Iraq and in Lebanon and all throughout the world. And obviously coming here and studying about it, I went to Cal State San Bernardino, got my master's in national security and counterterrorism studies. So we learned about a little bit of the political world and how each form of government, you read Aristotle, we start doing some political philosophy and a book on politics, and you read about democracy versus republic versus a dictatorship versus a theocracy. Like we have some theocracies in the world. And the best form of government was, to be said, a Republican that is ran democratically, which is why I cannot wait to celebrate our 250th birthday of our country next year. When we hit 250 years. We truly are an experiment to mankind. There's nothing like America that's ever existed that I fell in love with, because the ideals that this country was formed on and it thrives to export to the world of freedom, democracy, individual liberties, God-given unalienable rights of life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, they don't exist anywhere else.
No.
Now, I'm not a naive person that knows that this country is perfect. Obviously, we have our issues, and whether it's domestic or foreign issues that we have in the way that we deal with our problems. But that's the people. Because this is a government by the people, for the people. So yeah, people by design are faulty, and we have issues. We have corruption. We have jealousy. We have all of these things that come with us anywhere we go, whether it's governments, whether it's churches, whether it's corporations. People are just bound to be flaws. So a lot of people look at America and say, well, look at you guys. All you care about is money. All you care about is this and that. And we just had a nice chat with a German fellow that was on the way to LAX, and he wasn't very happy with America taking over and doing the things that we're doing in that region. And I said, listen, would you rather live in a world that's led by America or China and Russia? That's the options. In America, sometimes we're hated no matter what we do. You're kind of cursed if you do, and you're cursed if you don't do, if you act or not act. A lot of people wait and expect America to solve everybody's problems. But sometimes you got to solve your own problem. Like, I can't help someone that doesn't want to help themselves. Look at what's going on in Lebanon. Look at what's going on in Iraq. All these countries that have the opportunity to prosper through democracy, through education, which I think, just like we have weapons of mass destruction, we have weapons of mass collection and mass construction, which I believe is education. And that's why the more educated people, the less they are likely to fight and have issues with each other.
Well, and I think it's interesting. I think most of the people outside of the United States that complain about us, it's the reason they're complaining. It's because of the freedom. We have the freedom to do what we want to do.
Absolutely.
For the most part,
Absolutely.
And, you made the example, I think a few weeks ago, of somebody flying the American flag upside down. So in some countries, you can't do that. You're going to jail. Well, in America, you can do that.
Yeah.
You may not like it. and your neighbor might not like it, but he is legally allowed to do that.
And back, but to your question of what does the American flag mean to a refugee that came and sought refuge in this country, in this home of yours, of Americans, the American flag stands for individual liberties. It stands for unalienable God-given rights. It stands for democracy and freedom and the Bill of Rights and the beautiful concept of this living document that was drafted hundreds of years ago now that I don't think it exists anywhere else, which is what makes me so proud to call this my home.
Well, we could talk about this forever. Let's change a little bit and let's talk about Markarian Law Group. Why'd you open up your own firm? Why personal injury?
Absolutely. So one of the driving forces in my life has been community service. Growing up in the Middle East, serving in a seminary to become a priest before coming to America, then serving in the military, 2 different branches. Service is what drives me. That's the fuel. I love getting involved. I loved giving back. And nothing brought me more pleasure than growing a firm, making it successful. So now I have amplified my giving power.
Yeah.
I am involved, as you just mentioned earlier, in BNI, which its motto is givers gain. And boy, have I gained only from BNI, not mentioning the Rotary organization, the city organization, the soccer organizations, Crafton Hills College, all of these other entities that I'm involved in. I think people see and seek that community where it can help each other grow. And I live with the philosophy of high tides raise all ships. And the more I see you succeed, the more I succeed just by associating myself with you. So Markarian Law Group came to Yucaipa out of all places that it could be established in California because I fell in love with this city and the way that this city comes together in times of need. One of the highlights that actually made me decide to come and live in Yucaipa was I was working for Inland Leaders Charter School where our front desk receptionist lost her son who was an Army Ranger in Afghanistan.
I know her.
And Tyler Davis's flag and pictures hung in our city hall in the city of Yucaipa. When we came for the funeral procession, talk about an American flag and an American family. The whole city of Yucaipa was on the streets showing love and respect and support for this family. And at the time, I told my wife and my 2 kids, this is our home.
Yeah, I know that story well. One thing that's also unique about you, Chris, and is how many different organizations you are a part of. So, and you just listed a few of them, Rotary, and you said Crafton Hills, and there's BNI, school stuff. I mean, you are, nonstop. I can't imagine what your calendar looks like. How do you balance that, which is, makes you kind of the rainmaker, but you helps bring in the business, your face brings in the business for Markarian Law Group. How do you balance that and also be an attorney and get the work done day in and day out?
Absolutely. So I think it comes back to having a solid team behind you.
Okay.
And I've been blessed not only with my God-given talents, I guess, the personality that I just love people and I get to know people and work with them very well. But I think that was honed in and shaped even more when I was in the military. So creating a team that you can rely on in the military is a fundamental thing that you have to do as any branch in any operation, any mission, any unit. So I created this team that I've been building for the last 7-8 years now. And ironically, it is led by a retired Navy chief now. So we do literally run a tight ship at Markarian Law Group. We have 5 paralegals. We have about 6 support staff. And we have 3 admins. So it's been amazingly rewarding to see the growth and development of my team, who is always trying to get to that next level, individually and as a whole. And that's been very helpful. So I get to take a couple of month trips during the summer. I have my right-hand guy, David, who's in law school, and you've met through a few BNI events. David is almost there at getting his license. I think by November of 2025, he'll be able to appear on record under the supervision of an attorney. So it's going to be amazing to see him grow and flourish into the amazing guy he's going to be in a professional, that he's going to be able to provide services not only in Yucaipa Valley, but in the Coachella Valley where he's from and he was born and raised. With that being said, I am desperately looking for an attorney that can help me manage the legal work, obviously. But I do have a partnership with about 3 or 4 other personal injury law firms, and we work together and cover each other through this other organization I'm a member of called How to Manage a Small Law Firm.
Got it. Okay. How do you find good people? How do you find it's real competitive? It's a competitive market. What's your secret to finding good employees?
I've been doing a lot of soul searching and a lot of personal and professional growth and development classes. And I think here is the secret sauce. There is none. Is a numbers game.
Sure.
Because people could look great on a resume and they have great credentials, but you want not only the work ethics, but you want the cultural fit in your organization. The only way I was able to grow my firm the way that it is now is because they work very well and cohesively together to accomplish their mission. I've hired a lot of people and I've let go of a lot of people, and a lot of people realized, hey, we appreciate the opportunity. This is not for us. But I'm always looking to grow the firm and into the next age, especially with the advent of AI and virtual help. Unfortunately now, which is not something that I want to do, but if you want to grow, you have to export the services. In South America and Latin America, you can hire lawyers from these countries for $10 an hour.
Yeah.
Virtually. They can take the workload off of my paralegals here, so we can focus here on direct customer service and client relationships, and they can do the grunt work of summarizing records, requesting records, doing that kind of work. So I actually have a trip coming up to Colombia to explore and see one of those options of hiring help, virtual help, that can do all the legwork, and our staff here in Yucaipa can focus on client relationship and customer service.
Well, I like what you said about, you can find an employee that's got all the qualifications, but if it's not a cultural fit, it's almost just as disastrous as of not having especially with today's employee and today's younger generation. It's tougher.
Absolutely.
I have a lot of conversations with my business owner clients about that. It seems that I don't know, 20 to 35-year-old range, they're raised different. So they have different expectations when it comes to what their job looks like. Have you experienced anything like that?
Oh,
with the
absolutely.
younger generation?
And not only that, I got to learn that apparently if someone is 40 years or younger, you can discriminate against hiring them based on their age. But age discrimination applies for people 40 and over. So you and I cannot be discriminated against anymore.
Okay.
But with that being said, there are always exceptions to the rule. Unfortunately, in the last 10, 20 years, with the advent of social media, with the attention span, with these generational comfort, I think this generation is more prone to comfort than hardship. Whereas in our generation, not only we were able to be resilient to hardships, but we kind of looked for hardships because we knew behind the hardship there is a reward. And people are avoiding hardships and not reaping the rewards that the hardships come with.
Nobody wants a grind.
They want it easy.
Yeah.
They want a lighter workload. They want more pay. They want more accommodations, which if you're running a profitable business, those are important, but they're not the primary thing. We can all be happy, but if we're not making a profit, nobody can have a job next month.
Nope.
So one of the things that we've done, John, is we've improved on our hiring processes. So we have a selection process, we have written interviews, we have initial interviews, then we have a panel interview to make sure that we're weeding out the people that we know they're not going to be cultural fit, because it appears that everybody today is qualified on paper, but when you bring them in and sit them in front of people, the younger generation you're talking about don't have the skills, the interpersonal communication skills that we grew up with, because we grew up without phones and iPads and screens.
Right.
And we love talking to people, looking people in the eye, shaking hands. That if you walk to a college student today and you want to say good morning, God forbid you try to shake their hand, they run away from you.
And they won't look you in the eye.
Oh, absolutely.
It's so true. So true. Experience that all the time. So from your perspective as a business owner, what's the biggest thing that a business owner would overlook, or what's the biggest risk that a business owner can overlook when they're operating their business?
Well, we are a member of this organization called How to Manage a Small Law Firm that has over 650 law firms from all over the country. And the first thing they say, your problem is you're in California. Unfortunately, it's half the truth, right?
Yeah.
Because it's so much easier to run a business in states like Texas and Florida.
Sure.
And some places are more business environment than their consumer environment. Now, it's a double-edged sword for me because I'm a consumer protection attorney. I love that our state of California is consumer focused. But however, that gives a little bit of challenge to people that want to start and run and maintain and thrive their own businesses. The advice that I would give anyone that wants to start a business is planning. You have to start planning on what to expect. Organizations like BNI give you an opportunity not only to network and expand your business, but to learn from other businesses that have made the mistakes that you've done. Finding a mentor, that's like the age-old advice that you give someone. Anything you want to do, you want a good coach. You want someone that can push you and tell you, be careful of this or that, pitfalls of running a business or being in any field. We have great people in our BNI organization that are painters, and there are plumbers and electricians. Well, we've needed those people forever since plumbing, electrical, and painting has been around. But then in order to survive and stand out from the rest of the crowd, you must take a step that others are not taking, which is be involved in organizations like BNI that teach you not only to network with other businesses, but how to maintain and grow a profitable and an ethical, licensed, proper business.
No, love it. You mentioned California. So that's it's a tough place to operate. They make it difficult. What do you do to keep your firm compliant and kind of on the straight and narrow in California?
Well, I surround myself with professionals like yourself. You have our health insurance through you, and we do commercial policies, the professional malpractice insurances.
Sure.
Insurance is key. If you're starting to build something, you have to protect it. And especially once you have something built, you definitely have to protect it. We have an attorney in our BNI chapter as well that does estate planning. A lot of people work so hard, but they don't take the time to look back and say, God forbid if I don't wake up tomorrow, how am I going to leave my loved ones behind? Whether it's through life insurance, whether it's through trusts. So always protect everything that you anticipate on doing, because if you're in America and you set your mind onto doing something, you will do it. It's just that easy.
Sure.
Now, you have to learn the regulations, you have to learn the laws, you have to learn the people, you have to learn the industry, but all of that comes with the planning, and planning stage is the most important in starting and growing a business.
Planning, love it. We talk a lot about the Inland Empire. How important is the Inland Empire to you, and in terms of the market that you work in and that you thrive in?
Well, as an Armenian, I'm outside of my bubble because, as you know, Armenians, we own Glendale, Burbank, and Pasadena.
Right.
Like, if there is anyone other than Armenians there, like, what do you do in our town? I'm the only Armenian family I know of that lives in Yucaipa, and I love it for many reasons. But among which, when I was in law school, I went to University of Laverne College of Law in Ontario.
Yep.
And we were jokingly saying that that's the Harvard of the Inland Empire, because it was the only ABA accredited law school in the Inland Empire. Going down all the way to Phoenix, you didn't have another option of a law school on Highway 10. Learning the ratio of every county, how many lawyers per population. San Bernardino County is one of the most underrepresented counties in the United States when it comes to legal professionals. So on the stretch, and I call it the pass area between Redlands and Banning, there's a few law firms that do plaintiff work, but most of them are based and headquartered outside of the Inland Empire. They come here because of the freeway accidents and the small town accidents.
Sure.
I fell in love with Yucaipa for strategic reasons. One, because of my background and knowing that, God forbid, if there is anywhere that a threat would come to the United States, LA County is not the place you want to be. So Yucaipa Boulevard being exit number 83 from Santa Monica Pier, traveling on Highway 10, we're 83 miles off the coast. But then during that 83-mile stretch, you move up 2,000 feet in elevation. And Yucaipa starts at 2,000 feet and it ends about 4,000 feet. So it's very topographically just a beautiful mountain resort.
It is.
And we are centrally located between Vegas, San Diego, LA. You call it, we have it.
You can get to it. Right.
Anything is around Yucaipa. And besides the point that the people of Yucaipa are just unique and different, I think one of the last statistics I found is Yucaipa was the #1 safest city in its size in the state of California.
I believe it.
And it's in the top 10 in the United States for its size. So
Yeah.
I love the town. I love the Inland Empire. I believe I am able to help a lot more people in the Inland Empire than I am in places like LA, where people are a lot more saturated with legal professionals.
Sure. Oh, we got billboards and
Absolutely. Well, we still have the billboards
Still
here.
have those. Yeah, going down the 10, you see everybody. What's next from Markarian Law Group?
The goal was to grow this firm into 2 locations, and Banning or Beaumont is, God willing, the next place that we want to grow into. And if I wanted to grow it into out of state, Texas would be the next place for us.
Cool.
The goal is to have 4 pods of 4 lawyers with 2 paralegals and 3 to 4 case managers under each attorney, where we can help about 1,000 cases a year.
Okay, awesome.
Is where I want to take it to. And then my retirement plan, I jokingly call him, David Ibarra will take over from there in the next 3 to 5 years, and he can do whatever he wants with it, so I can enjoy raising my kids and living my life with my wife.
What has been your proudest moment as a business owner so far?
Obviously, you want to measure your proudest moment by an accomplishment. And I think as a business owner, one of the most significant cases where I have changed people's life is we had a case where a family had their loved one shot and killed in Riverside County.
Wow.
A case that nobody else wanted to take. A case where people thought, and including myself, I'm a very pro-law enforcement, pro-military kind of guy. So I'm like, hey, if you got shot, it's probably because you deserved it, you did something wrong. Only to look into it and finding that there were some things that could have been done differently to prevent the loss of life in this situation. Partnering up with the expert in the field, a lawyer that is well-renowned in the country, we were able to get a federal jury verdict, which is a very conservative verdict of $10 million for this family. So I think me believing in my clients and me seeing it through to a place where I don't think any other lawyers would have, because most of these lawyers that want the big cases, they look for a big case and get the big verdict, versus we have gotten really good at finding the big cases that nobody sees the potential in and turning them into the big cases they deserve to be looked at.
Wow, that's awesome. So last question for you, Chris, is what advice would you give other Inland Empire entrepreneurs that are looking to grow their business?
I think the biggest advice you can give any business owner anywhere is find a coach, find a mentor, join an organization that cares about your success as much as the organization's success. I'm a big fan of BNI. I'm a big believer of BNI. I keep inviting a lot of friends to come and join into BNI because I believe in the success that BNI wants to see in each individual business, not only in the growth and success of BNI itself, because BNI grows as we grow.
Sure.
And our chapter has grown from under 10 people to over 25 members now in the last year, I believe. And we still call it, our president, Caesar, calls it we're the business elite and we're the best in the West.
Right.
And I believe he's right just because of the vigor that we have in this chapter and the membership that wants to grow. And we keep bringing guests to share with them, this is the opportunity that you can have in growing your business and helping everybody else grow theirs.
That's awesome. Well, Chris, thank you for being on. I really appreciate it. Chris Markarian with Markarian Law Group. And I also want to thank Naja at Parrish Lab for helping putting this together. And until next time, thanks.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity, John. Good luck.
All right.